everybody, please check out this video, basic information for Hitchcock hysteria and horror. This week's module, we're kicking off with Hitchcock information, so legacies and genre of Hitchcock. He's kind of the father of this whole genre. Kicks off really popular, especially in the 50s and 60s. He had a Hitchcock Hour. His movies are fantastic. When I taught this at Shasta College, we would watch Rear Window. The Birds is good, especially in California, because he's from Scotts Valley, just over the hill from Santa Cruz, where I'm originally from. But he made lots of his movies in Northern California, so the scenery is very similar, and freaked people out, and people like to be freaked out. So that's kind of what this week's going to be about. Look at Halloween, and then people like this stuff. You either really like it or you absolutely loathe it. That's why we don't have a movie. So don't worry about you don't have any hysteria that you have to be scared, because we're not going to do that. So Legacy of Hitchcock is good information, basic stuff. If we had more time, we'd watch a movie, but we're not going to. You have enough other things to do for this class, and that's not one of them. But the phenomenon of zombie culture in America, locating zombies is another good one. 6 mind-blowing ways that of zombies and vampires in America. This is a pop culture one. So you have sort of a juxtaposition between very academic looking at zombie culture and zombie sort of why we like that in our cultures, really around the world, and why in a pop culture way of looking at it too. So again, kind of showing both sides, a lot like this class when we look at academic stuff as well as what pop culture thinks of it. Real quickly, historically speaking, zombies really kind of go back in history. Even in 1800s, there was an island called Saint Dominique that was controlled by France, and in fact, in the early 1800s, it was controlled by Napoleon Bonaparte, part of his empire. But during the Revolution, there was a slave uprising. The slaves, kind of hearing in France that there was, freedom of the people, they thought, hey, that acquires to us as well. And they created a successful slave revolt on the island of Saint Dominique, renaming it Haiti, that you might know of today, Haiti. And it was the first real successful slave revolt, probably since Spartacus in the Roman times, but where it really was successful. Created their own government. And what they did is they started to expel all the white people, all the slave owners, and all of the just people who weren't part of this new regime, this new freed slave state. And so they freed them. They told them to go. The ones that didn't go, a year later, there was a guy named Jean Zombie, and he's part of this sort of syncretized religion of slave culture that develops in Saint Dominique, where it's African sort of witchcraft, African witch doctor type thing, and Christianity morphing into this culture. And he was a medicine man, and he was a leader of this rebellion. And his task was going around killing all the white people. Now that created quite a stir, especially in the slave states in the newly developed United States. And it started to become this sort of boogeyman culture. Better watch out, or the zombie will get you. So it started sort of creating this stir. Is one sort of theory about how zombies started, sort of this slave rebellion, and this man who became sort of a boogeyman of the whole thing. So it's an interesting background. Regardless, as it spreads, even in early film, zombies take off. White Zombie in, I think, 1932 was a movie. Zombie Island, I think, was in 1928. Same with vampires, Cabinet of Caligari. Bram Stoker was a big fan of Wild Bill Hickok, and actually the mannerisms of Wild Bill and the British sort of way, the high society he developed in The Vampire with his story of Bram Stoker's Dracula. So all that plays a role. What's really interesting, and what some of these sort of allude to, is how those become popular in our culture. So there's a story, some people are doing psychology, doing studies on this, that very interestingly, when the economy is down in the United States, 2 things kind of happen, is what one psychologist, and I'll have to try to find the article, I haven't found it for a few years, but in San Francisco, a friend of mine was working on it and published it. And two things he found happens when the economy is down. One is men start to grow their beards. So that's one thing you start to see more and more. And the other thing is you see the popularity of zombie movies. When the economy gets better, zombie movies decline, and you see more of an increase and rise of vampire movies. And you see men start to shave their face more. So it was an interesting thing, you know, put all this sort of document, all this evidence behind it. You know, if you look into society in the last 10, 20 years, the popularity of zombie movies, the popularity of vampire movies, and how that collides with the economy of the United States. Interesting thing to think about of how, you know, how we look at our hysteria, our own hysteria in our lives and our culture around us, the anxieties, and portray that into this genre. So that's something to look at. So we're looking at the psychology of this genre. We're looking at sort of this sociology behind it in our culture and anthropology. So just some stuff to look at, some things to think about. This theme song that's been playing in this video is a good comedy sort of spoof on zombie movies called Warm Bodies. If you haven't seen it, if you're not a big fan of this genre, that's kind of a good one because it makes fun of popularity of Walking Dead and sort of makes fun of that and the mindset and sort of plays with race, actually, and sort of it's an interesting movie on race and sort of and power and sort of power of the state over, you know, over people, really. But using zombies. So another way of using it in this 21st century. So enjoy this one, and if you have questions, please let me know. Have a great week, everybody. Okay, bye-bye.